Okay. My name is Trey Jimmerson, and the topic of this debate is based upon two different species of ticks, and basically which is more difficult to control and mitigate.
My name is DJ Hogg, and my species is the Exodus scapularis, or the deer tick.
My name is Trey Jimmerson, and my scientific name of my species is the Ambyloma americanum, and it's also known as the Lone Star tick. The debate topic is based on which of these species of ticks are more difficult to control and mitigate.
So the deer tick, their bodies are flattened and they possess 8 legs as adults and nymphs, but only 6 legs in the larvae stage. They are approximately 3 to 5 millimeters long and are colored red and brown. When female ticks have eaten, their bodies appear darker and they become bigger. The size of the deer tick can vary depending on the sex of the tick and feeding state. In regards to their behavior and life history, they have a 2-year life cycle, 3 stages: larva, nymph, and adult. The tick must take a blood meal at each stage before maturing to the next. Deer tick females latch onto a host and drink its blood for 4 to 5 days. After the deer tick has eaten in excess, the tick drops off and overwinters and leaves. The following spring, the female lays several hundred to a few thousand eggs in clusters. Deer ticks are very active, searching for hosts, and are quite numerous. For the impacts to human society, humans considered accidental hosts of deer ticks may contract Lyme disease from bites. Exodus scapularis is the main vector of the Lyme disease in North America. Removal of the deer ticks can be difficult. If a specimen is crushed, infected bloody fluids are released and may further contaminate a bite victim.
This is my opening statement. So for the biology of the Lone Star tick, its body's divided up into 2 primary sections: the head and the mouth, and then the legs, the digestive tract, and its reproductive organs. For the life history of the tick, it's got a normal development stage of egg, larva, nymph, and adult. It's also known as a 3-host tick, so it feeds on a different host during 3 different stages of its life. For the behavior of the tick, they have a feeding behavior that consists of feeding on blood from a host, and if the tick does not find a host, it will die. And the way that they extract blood is they poke a hole in the outer layer of skin known as the epidermis, and they insert their hypostome. Impacts to human society is that the Lone Star tick can actually cause a meat allergy that people can contract if they eat contaminated meat. But there's something called an alpha-gal allergy that's present in the meat allergy, and this is also used in an anti-cancer drug known as cetuximab. And the way I see it is if we can find a way to extract that allergy from ticks, we could find an actual benefit from the ticks and not just see them as a pest. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Also, a unique characteristics of the tick is that it attaches itself to a host using questing. And questing is known as a position where the tick latches its back set of legs onto a leaf or a grass blade, and then it keeps its front set of legs open, so that way whenever its host comes by, it'll use those set of legs and it'll latch onto its host and begin sucking blood.
So, rebuttal number one. Trey, in your opening statement, you mentioned that the Lone Star tick can use a meat allergy or can cause a meat allergy. Explain the side effects of this meat allergy and if there is a way that this allergy can be controlled or treated.
Main thing that you should know about the meat allergy is you should be careful when you examine your meat before you eat it. Also, sometimes poultry can contract this meat allergy. Ways that you can manage and treat this is avoid foods that trigger symptoms. So once you've contracted the allergy, there will be certain foods that your body might not agree with you and it might cause you to vomit. Also, you can control symptoms with antihistamines or cortisone steroids. And also you can reverse your severe reactions, particularly with a prescription, and it's epinephrine that you inject into yourself to offset the allergic reaction. My next question for DJ is, my next question is that in your opening statement, you mentioned that the tick is crushed while it's attached to its host, and it may actually contaminate the bite victim even furthermore if it is done so. Is there any way that you can control this if it happens? And if so, what do you do when your victim is bitten and infected?
So if you are bitten by a tick, make sure that you are careful when removing the tick. It is recommended that you use tweezers to remove the tick from your skin. If the tick happens to get crushed or you are experiencing a rash or any abnormal symptoms where the tick attached itself to you, you must go to the doctor and get tested to make sure you don't have Lyme disease or any other diseases that the tick carries. So rebuttal number two. The Lone Star tick seems to be common around the entire central eastern part of the United States. This region provides a perfect environment for the Lone Star tick to thrive in with all the forests, bushes, and especially heavy brush found in Texas. Are there any solutions or ways to control an outbreak of the Lone Star tick from affecting people as well as animals?
So the Lone Star tick is found in areas where there's concentrated brush, leaves, grass, just your typical backyard and environment found around the eastern half of the United States. Ways that you can prevent getting bitten by a tick or infected is, one, keep your bushes, your yard, and your property trimmed and maintained on a regular basis, so that way it doesn't provide like a forage or a healthy environment for the tick to hide in and wait for a host. Also, while you're out doing this, or let's say you're hunting or you're hiking in the woods, make sure you're wearing long shirts, long pants, and protective gear. If you're cleaning a dead animal, you need to wear gloves, so that way you can while you're cleaning the deer or whatever it is that you're cleaning, you don't get a tick attaches itself onto you. Along with that, you need to not only examine yourself but your pets and animals for ticks on a regular basis, and also use repellents that are approved by the Environmental Protection Agency. Now we're going to move on to our closing statements.
So, the deer tick may certainly be overlooked as a predator to hosts just because of how small it is and how we don't normally see them at first glance. It's important the behaviors and biology of the deer tick are studied by researchers so that they can find a way to expose the tick's weakness and find a solution to controlling the tick population. The Lone Star tick is more difficult to control and to mitigate because it acts as a predator to host, and it also causes meat allergies and other tick-borne diseases that affect humans as well as animals.
The Lone Star tick is viewed as a predator just like a deer tick, but it's easier to control and mitigate for several reasons. Researchers have already provided the general population with the keys to controlling ticks. Like I said, people must take protective measures such as trimming their grass, making sure that they're wearing proper clothing while they're out in the environment, and checking themselves for ticks as well as their pets. This research is important because if you do these things and especially maintain your grass in the environment that you live in, it'll make it hard for the tick to have a place to hide. And if they don't have a place to hide, then essentially they can't find their host and latch onto them. And that would mean that they would end up dying because their survival is dependent on blood from hosts such as deer and other animals and humans. In the event that someone is bitten and infected, there are cures and treatments that we've discussed, such as going to see a doctor if you're feeling ill, and they can prescribe you antibiotics. And there's other treatments, just as making sure that you're not eating foods that trigger these symptoms, and reversing the reactions with epinephrine. And essentially that allows the well-being and safety of humans.